Welcome to Friday Focus. So we've been doing the chapter, the fundamental unit of life, which is the fifth chapter in class 9 textbook, CBSE. And today is the final part, the conclusion of fundamental unit of life, right? So this is the seventh lesson together. And today we learn about vacuoles and cell division, right? So we will also compare plant and animal cells, because by the time we finish vacuoles, we would have covered almost all the cell organelles inside a cell. That means we have completed most of the cell organelles, all the cell organelles that has been mentioned in your textbook, right? So now we are in a position to know about the complete picture of plant and animal cells. So we'll compare them. And we will also compare between the types of cell divisions, right? So these are also frequently asked questions. So that's why we'll look into them. So first, let's step into our first topic for the day, that is vacuoles. So what are vacuoles? So from the picture, what do you observe? The first one is the picture of a plant cell under the electron microscope. Under the microscope, and you can see that there is a large vacuole, right? The big space in between is nothing but the vacuole. And the second picture is an animal cell, that is nothing but a paramecium, and in that you can see the two pointers are pointing towards small vacuoles, and these are nothing but contractile vacuoles because they contract, and their function is basically to store and take and ingest, store food, and when the digestion is over, it also helps in excretion of the waste products, right? So you can see that they are small and more than one in animal cells, right? So what exactly are vacuoles? They are nothing but storage sacs. Okay, they are bag-like structures which store certain things. So we'll know what it is as we proceed, right? So as we have observed, they are small and many in animal cell, and they are large in plant cells. And in fact, the central vacuole in plants may occupy 50 to 90% of the cell volume. That means the most of the cell volume is occupied by the central vacuole in plants, right? So what are their functions? Their functions are most vital in plant cells and in unicellular organisms like amoeba or paramecium, right? So we've already discussed a little, so we'll learn about it in more detail. So in plant cells, vacuoles are full of cell sap, right? And this provides turgidity and rigidity to the cell. Turgidity as in that firmness, that is that swollen look of the cell, so that it remains full and it remains rigid. Why so? Because plants must protect their structure at all costs, right? So they're not in a position to move away from danger. They have to get rooted and stand there. So that is how vacuoles help in plants retain its structure by helping the cell to retain its structure, right? Now, it also stores amino acids, sugars, and various organic acids and some proteins inside itself in plants. Now, in unicellular organism, as we already discussed, there are food vacuoles, and they contain the food that they have consumed. Sometimes vacuoles also help in expelling excess water and waste from the cell, right? So these are the functions of vacuoles. Now, can you spot vacuoles in our diagram that we've been observing since the beginning of this chapter? There you can see the large vacuole inside the plant cell, and inside this animal cell, you can see a small vacuole over there. It's supposed to be many anyway. Yeah, so now we are in a position we've got the whole picture of a cell in both plants and animals. We have learned that in a few ways in which they differ also. So let's just compare them. So with respect to size, plant cells are generally large and animal cells are generally smaller. Now we know that cell wall is present only in plant, bacterial and fungal cells. Okay. We already learned that in detail. If you want, you can check out this video that is about the cell wall. Now in animals, there are no cell walls, right? And plastids are also there only in plant cell and not in animal cell, in most animal cells. There is an organism called Euglena. It has plastids, right? Which comes under the animal kingdom, and still it has plastid. That is an exception, but most animal cells do not have plastids. Now, vacuole, we just learned that there is a large central vacuole in plants which is absent in animal cell, and animal cell has got many smaller vacuoles. Now, that was about the cell organelles and cell in general, right? The structure and function. Now, in order for an organism to survive, new cells need to be created every day, because there is always damage that happens every day, normal wear and tear. And those cells need to be replaced. And also organisms need to grow and reproduce. So for that also, new cells need to be generated, right? So, how are these new cells formed, if you may ask? It's formed, the clue lies in our cell theory that we learnt about in our first lesson together, right? In this chapter. So, in cell theory, there is a point that was added by Virchow, and it stated that all cells arise from pre-existing cells. That means, already existing cells need to give rise to new cells, and this process by which new cells are made from pre-existing cells is called cell division. That means already existing cells divide to form new cells. So there are two types of cell division, that is mitosis and meiosis. Now what is mitosis? It's the process of cell division by which most cells in our body divide. And the purpose of mitosis is generally growth and repair. And meiosis is the process of cell division by which specific cells of reproductive tissue, right? Plants have reproductive tissue and animals have reproductive organs, right? So cells of reproductive tissue only divide by meiosis. And why does this happen? To form gametes, right? So meiosis happens only in reproductive tissue, in the cells of reproductive tissues or organs, and its purpose is to form gametes, right? So let's look into the first type in detail, mitosis. So this is a very simplified diagram that will make the main points clear. So over here you can see that it starts with a mother cell, right? It first replicates its DNA, okay? It replicates its DNA. That means it creates copies of its DNA, right? Then what happens? There is a literal division of the cell. The cell divides into two. Eventually it becomes two daughter cells, right? So in that process, during that cell division, you can see that the chromosomes are getting equally divided between the two daughter cells. And in the end, the daughter cells resemble exactly the mother cell in respect to the number of chromosomes. That means the daughter cells have the same number of chromosomes as that of the mother cell. Now let's look at meiosis. Clearly, it's a little bit more complicated, right? So in this, you can see there are two consecutive cell divisions that happen, right? In the first cell division, you can see that the chromosomes are dividing into two different types of daughter cells, and they in turn give rise to 4 different types of daughter cells, which have different combinations of the chromosomes. And you can see that the number of chromosomes are actually reducing to half in the daughter cell. That means the daughter cells have got half the number of chromosomes from the mother cell, right? So, the chapter in your textbook ends with a tricky question. Why do you think that the chromosomes must reduce into half the number during meiosis? We've already seen that meiosis happens for the formation of gametes, right? And a single gamete, that is, gametes are nothing but sperm or ovum, and a single gamete cell is just half the story of an organism, right? So, if this meiosis is happening inside the ovary of a mother, then the chromosomes need to be halved, because in the next offspring, the other half must come from a different organism, that is from the father. So this is just half the story, and hence these daughter cells that are the gamete cells need only half the chromosome, right? Because ultimately during fertilization, the rest of the half must come from the other gamete, from the other organism, right? So this is the function of meiosis. So let's just compare mitosis and meiosis. It's the same thing that we learned. We're just putting it into order. So mitosis happens in most cells, and meiosis happens only in specific cells of reproductive origin. The function of mitosis is mainly growth and repair, whereas meiosis is only reproduction. Its role is only in reproduction, that is the formation of gametes. Then mitosis includes only one cell division, whereas meiosis has two consecutive cell divisions. Then in mitosis, the daughter cells have the same number of chromosomes as that of the mother cell, and in meiosis, the new cells have half the number of chromosomes than the mother cell, right? So that was about mitosis and meiosis. Yeah, so that concludes our chapter, the fundamental unit of life. And in this lesson, we have covered the vacuoles and cell division. We have seen the structure of vacuoles in plants and animal cells, and we have learned their significance in both plant cells and unicellular animals, right? Plant cell, it helps in keeping the turgidity of cell, and also helps in the storage of many organic compounds. And in unicellular organism, it functions as food vacuoles and waste. In the ingestion, digestion, and excretion, right? So that was about vacuoles. And cell division, we learned there are two types for two purposes. And we learned about mitosis and meiosis and their comparison. We also compared the plant and animal cells, right? So that's it for today. Thank you, everyone.